Our history was stolen from us. We don't know where we came from, back that far. They took our history and they made it what they wanted to be, or they just didn't give us one at all.
Who is that? Right. So it won't be in the way of night. Who is that? I don't know, son. We'll call it still night. Wave at Big Mama.
City Council approves the request to rename a portion of 10th Street after a local legend, the Reverend William Body.
94-year-old Reverend William Body has lived in Phoenix City for more than 80 years. When I told him of the honor Phoenix City was considering him for, it was the first he'd heard of the proposal.
Me feel it all came from 806 10th Street, Phoenix City, Alabama. And so this is history, And so, we need to realize that, where we started from, where we came from, we know where we came from, we know where we were headed to. And everything that has been accomplished through every family in the Body family, it all started here. Their parents were here. Their parents' parents were here. Everything started here from 806, 806, 806.
When I think of my ancestors, one thing that was prevalent in our history, not just the Body history, but I mean the Black history, we don't get a lot of shared stories. I think sometimes maybe it's too painful. But you knew that the history was there, and you'd get little tidbits. And then we would ask questions, but we would ask each other's questions. Because my time, you were told, no, you can't ask, no, we don't do that. We were not even permitted to witness adult conversation. We were always children here, your elders over here. So as I aged, I began to ask questions and start coming up with some of my own answers. First of all, it may sound corny or whatever, but we are love. If you start with that, everything else comes afterwards.
Everything we got came from the third generation. They taught us everything, and we just kind of mimicked them. The third generation, from oldest to youngest, Eva, Nathan, William, Ernest, Carrie, and Clara. The fourth generation pinned them as the sixth. Because, in our family, they were just so powerful.
The sixth to the family were the council of elders for our family.
We heard that we came from, the ancestors came from Waverly Hall. Now, I have no connection with Waverly Hall. All that I remember is Phoenix City.
So rumor has it that one of my great-grandfather's siblings, right, and so they fled Waverly Hall and ended up in Phoenix City because of that. So in order to, save the family, they moved. 806 is where my great-grandfather raised his children, right? So everything came from there. And then at some point, Uncle Will built the house next door. And so my big mama stayed in 806, and Uncle Will and his family were in 804. Those houses are Phoenix City. That is the Body family.
The houses were right next door to each other. The only thing that separated was the driveway. Back in the day, we just run over into that yard from yard to yard. They were that close.
I feel that my father built the house next to his sister so that he could be there for the support that she would definitely need. The family practiced the village concept. Everybody contributed. Everybody had their gifts.
You see Big Mama, you see Uncle Will. You see Uncle Will, you see Big Mama. If Big Mama was making some food in her house, Uncle Will was coming across that gate and sitting down, having a talk with his sister and eating some food.
We were just supportive of each other. And you would think that they didn't have issues. But then you grow up to find out that they did. So they coped the way they knew how. I began to realize how many obstacles, how many roadblocks there were, not just for my daddy in that generation, but for those that came before him. And just beginning to understand how much pain there must have been, and how in not sharing a lot with us, they were trying to keep us from the pain. Often when you talk about pain and things, people will say you're being negative. And sometimes people feel we can't handle the negative. But once again, I'm old school. No pain, no gain.
Big Mama showed me love in ways where she didn't have to say it. I could just feel her energy.
Y'all have my love. It's kind of like I didn't hear a whole lot of love being verbalized or whatever. I knew I was loved. It's kind of like just like the breeze now. You can hear it and you can't see it, but you can feel it. So I started wondering, now what's that reason that we don't hear a whole lot of love being verbalized? And once I put my mind to it and I really got to thinking, I went all the way back to slavery. It was not wise to be attached to your children. It was not wise to have your children loving on you, because you knew that child would be snatched away. You had no control over your family. So it would behoove you to be careful. Back it up. You love, but you don't want to get too emotionally involved because, it'd be so destructive. So we have generations of that. It's multi-generational.
We're not just this stepfoot family. We have problems too. Alcohol, for one, has been a challenge in our family.
My dad would always tell us, it is in our DNA. Yeah. Our DNA, you will overconsume. You just will. If 2 drinks would do it for one person, for the average body, it's going to take 5 drinks to do that same produce that same euphoric feeling.
Growing up as a child, it wasn't something that I recognized. But, as an adult, it's something I can see very clearly and how far back it goes.
And I feel like, I've missed out on years with certain family members as a result of alcoholism. I have spent, my adult life trying to make sure my children were connected to that same sense of family. You all weren't able to experience some family members in the way that I had because of that alcoholism. So, there's certain personalities that you were never able to connect with, right? And had alcoholism not taken such a strong hold on our family, that would have been something that would have, added to your life.
I think that generationally, how they handled it it's just there. It's unspoken. Where in my view, alcoholism is a disease. So maybe if it was discussed with those of us that was heavy on the drinking or full-blown alcoholics, maybe we would have embraced that a little bit better.
The Body family, we can drink alcohol. But what I learned is that almost every black family had a drinking concern. And I could only think, well, you had to drink because they were anesthetizing themselves. I only think about what my dad had to go through and granddaddy. Where do you get the comfort? So it's a way of coping.
I mean, coping, for black people is moving forward because we have to. But that doesn't mean that we properly healed the traumas that have happened, right? And that doesn't mean that we're not passing that trauma down generationally because we hadn't totally healed it.
So I feel like I might have took that whole issue a lot more serious had I known some of the past in front of me.
Learn from the past, but you don't live in the past. That's crucial because sometimes we don't want to look at the past because we don't have a good understanding. And you cannot be ashamed of your past. A lot of times we carry shame with it. So what we have learned to do as a culture now is to share more. It's okay. Share more with your children. Bring them into the conversation. Help them begin to understand. The thing of sharing, believe it or not, is really biblical. Last Supper. Barriers break down. People talk. They take on a whole different mindset when they sit and eat. It's very important. It's biblical that breaking bread together. You may have a cousin you may be upset with. Well, you got to sit there now and you all are talking. In that talking, you begin to communicate with each other. So there's a whole lot of good things that come out at a gathering. And the more you have the gatherings, the more we get to see who's who.
We are grateful to Almighty God for having brought us from our several homes and enabled us to be here for another family reunion.
The Body reunion started in 1977.
That was an opportunity for me to be able to see and interact with a whole host of people.
We wasn't doing no flying back then, so we was getting in the family vehicle, and my dad was pushing that ride from Ohio to Alabama every year. I think it was, 10, 12 hours, that you just in the car.
Like, there are so many bodies, right, multi-generational, that were around during that time. We were intentional about family. We were intentional about generations being together.
That meetup and that gathering is where it all started.
We get together, we eat, we drink, we dance.
Don't want to step to us, because if you do, you will get faded by this body family crew. Now what you want to do? Way back in 1979, we was at Richardson Lounge, and we was bending our spines. Sister Sledge came on, it was a Soul Train line, and we said we are family like we lost our mind. I mean, we was dead ass crunk, and we was dead ass drunk.
Sister Sledge, we are family. We play that at every family function. We played it at every reunion. We played it at every party down there on William Body Street. That used to be 10th Street. And when it comes on, it's a known to get up and make this Soul Train line and start coming down here singing, you know, and doing your thing 2 by 2. Off this line, y'all jamming all the way down, and y'all get back in line and do it over again.
When everybody's here, man, it's just a joyful time. I mean, it's just, I sit back and I thank God for being able to have a family to celebrate, you know, and share our time with like that.
First, you got to run up in 806 where Big Mama stay. You got to give all your love to her and Uncle Ken and Auntie Lynn, and if anybody else is sitting over there, like my first cousins or their kids at the time, whatever, if they sitting there, we got to love up on them. And then 2 seconds after that, walking across the driveway up in Uncle Will's house, it's like, who all over here?
Big Mama's house, 806, was really the gathering spot. Whenever we have gatherings in Phoenix City, whether it's my Big Mama's family, whether it's Uncle Will's family, whether it's Auntie Eva Mae's family, or whether it's Auntie Bay's family, it doesn't matter. We're all gathered. That's like the meeting place and the meeting spot for everybody.
And just being able to just have this freedom of, you know, you're not even moving in time. You know, it's not about, you know, okay, what time is it? You don't have any idea of what time it is.
Uncle Ken had this thing, right? When you getting ready to leave, he out there watching us load, you know, he done help load us up or whatever. He done tap the car or whatever for you to pull off, but he ain't never leaving. He's still standing in the middle of the road while we down at the stop sign to turn, you know, and it's just like emotional watching, you know. Now when we about to turn that corner, now he going in, you see him shutting the gate and going back up in the house. So it would just always be, and then maybe Auntie Lynn or Big Mama was still sitting on the porch just, you know, just smiling and stuff and waving, and it just be like emotional, like I'm not ready to leave.
I feel that the family survived this long because of the 6. Like for me, that foundation is what has kept it all together and sustained. So they were the roots, and they ingrained in us through the, you know, what they showed us and taught us by their actions, you know, how to be. And I think, you know, it just carried, and for such a long time, they were here for that, you know.
I think our family, the bodies as a whole, have been hit hard, right, when it comes to tragic deaths over the years.
So you had no choice but to survive, to be strong, to take a step, take a breather, and move forward. Not that you forgetting things or burying things, you know what I mean, but just that you get up and move forward the next day.
That comes from the mentality of our ancestors, because that's the way they made it. What else you gonna do? You don't have an option. So we just sucked a lot up. Therefore, we internalize a lot of that pain.
It's always tough immediately after. It's always tough again on the day of the funeral. But it's always a homegoing celebration afterwards. So after we've done the send-off, after we've cried and shed tears, The gathering is still us getting together as family and celebrating each other.
Because all the way to the end, they stuck together. Your Grammy told me, she said, when your daddy passes, she said, my mama not going to be here another year. I said, how can you say something like that? Auntie doing fine. She said, I'm just telling you. And I just took it really with a grain of salt. I really did. Okay? Daddy died October 2014. And I think Auntie died July 2015. Within a year. Just like she said.
I mean, the feeling's never gonna die. I mean, that's ingrained. So, I mean, I think it's just a form of, for me, grief. And not in that, you know, something is lost that can't be maintained or can't be, you know. It's just that feeling of missing and losing, you know, those who were very dear to you. And I guess, I mean, that's just, I guess that's just always, that's part of it. You know, something dies and you always feel some sense of a loss. So I think that never changes, but that spirit of what was taught and what was gained and given throughout all that experience, I think that's still there. So, like I say, the root of and the foundation of what the six gave, I think that never goes away.
You know, I look just like my mama, and I favor my sister. So when I look in the mirror, you know, it all comes back. Just getting back there, getting in that house where they used to be. From time to time, I got to get there and just reminisce about little things that happen, and it just feels safe in that house.
Especially with me living in this residence, I'm always constantly, you know, thinking back, you know, on the old days, on the good old days. I'm constantly reminiscing all the time, you know, just by living in 806 10th Street. It feels like as though my mother's spirit, my grandmother's spirit is still surviving in this house to comfort me.
We were fortunate to have that council of elders for the Body family. And even though now I don't look at it as the same as a council of elders, so to speak, as I did then, but we still have those elders that we can count on. And, you know, as y'all get older, then my generation becomes those elders to y'all and y'all kids. You see what I'm saying? Without that, in any family, that family is lost because they don't have a guide, a wise guide, pointing them in the right direction.
And a lot of times, I like when Bobo came today, and I looked at the clock. I don't want to shed a tear, but you'll be surprised how many times I look on my microwave time, 8:04. Then I pick up the phone and all, and I'll be looking every now and then. It could be in the evening or whatever, all the time, 8:06. Sometimes 2 and 3 times in one day, 8:04, 8:06. That's all, honey. For me, it doesn't get any better than that. It really doesn't. And I started to call Bobo in there. I said, by the time he get up and drag in the kitchen, it'll be 8:05. And I thank them all the time. I'm going to tell you something. I thank them when they were living. I thank Daddy and Auntie, those two especially, for setting such good examples for us. It's easy for me to do a lot of what I do because I saw them doing it. And I just improved on it and kind of adapted some things. you know. But I learned from them, just watching them.
As we part to go our separate ways, we pray for divine guidance. We believe that where you guide, you provide. Bless us collectively and individually.
Because amid all our loss, we still have the birth of the new ones. We always see the cycle working. We always in the family. That cycle of life working.
It seems as though the baton was passed down. The baton had been passed several times before I received it. One thing about receiving the baton, you never know when you're going to get it. When you receive it, you got to take off running with it. When I travel through the house in whatever area of the house that I'm in, it kind of reminds me of them, because I've done a lot of changing around in the house, and I can look at the new that I've done to the house versus the old that was there, and it always keep memory of them to me.
Nah, we gonna get every aspect of this
locked
thing.
in history.
Yeah, it's gonna be in history. That's all right.
One thing that I've noticed I have to do to honor my ancestors' memory is live in truth within the family. I feel like that's an honor to them. Our parents, great examples. And now it's us, me and as I tell your Grammy all the time, we now our parents. Yeah, so we get it. We really do.
Something that I said at Auntie Lynn's funeral was like a part of a verse. The old order of things have passed away. Like when Auntie Lynn passed, we all used to her cooking and her cakes and this and that and the third. Where we now know that's about to shut down. Now me and my sister might have to get in the kitchen. My nieces might have to get in the kitchen, that type of thing.
Well, the Body family continues to move on. We know there will be loss. There's also birth. We have all these young babies. We had 2 babies, Body babies this year.
All the time when there's new bodies coming in, that's a huge celebration. Part of coping with the loss of what was, part of that is, you know, loving on and teaching what is to be.
That lets me know that, you know, that we're still here. You know, that you know, the body family still is in existence. You know, and to be able to see them come back in, new members of the family, that's very exciting to me. You know, and it gives me, you know, hope.
And like I said, you guys have the tools. You have the foundation. It's just a matter of lighting that flame again.
Let's think of it like this. Let's think of the past as being the seeds. Okay? When you think of the past being the seeds, in the future, you reap what you sow. So let's plant that seed which our ancestors did. So that's what the body family is doing right now. We just rotating. We reaping. They sowed good seeds and we reaping.
Phoenix City Council approves the request to rename a portion of 10th Street after a local legend, the Reverend William Body.
Yeah, Barbara, 94-year-old Reverend William Body has lived in Phoenix City for more than 80 years. When I told him of the honor Phoenix City was considering him for, it was the first he'd heard of the proposal.
It made me feel humble because I never dreamed that such recognition would be given in honor of a person of what I consider to be very low esteem.
The changing of the street name from 10th Street to William Body Jr. Street is of utmost significance to our family, the Body family as a whole, right? It's one of those things that cements our family forever, right? In the place, in the gathering place where we were all there. You know what I'm saying? The importance of that is strong. That's y'all. You know, that the street being renamed, right? That's y'all. That's y'all legacy.
I would just like for whoever the parents may be, you know, of our younger generation, to be able to bring them to the Phoenix City area and let them see where everything started at, you know, because this is history right here at 806 10th Street. I want this history of this house to remain until I'm gone. And when I'm gone, whoever gets it will take over from there.
For those descendants and for the next generations, they're going to always have somewhere to go to. They're going to always be able to go. They're going to have a story. Permanent. Engraved in history. Right? Engraved there. So that just makes me overjoyed.
This is WM Body Street, and indeed it may end here, but we know that it goes on and on and on. How will you walk the street? How will you keep making that pavement grow?
Hartman.